Thank you for tuning into Hilantra podcast. Get ready for a dose of holistic wellness talks to help you achieve optimal health. Enjoy this episode. Welcome to another enriching episode of Hilantra, your trusted source for holistic wellness talks. Today, we dive into the realm of energy and overall well being with a truly inspiring guest. With a background in holistic wellness that spans over 30 years, our guest brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise in alternative and integrative health, which is what we love to talk about, as well as counseling and mindfulness. Her book, The Memory of Health A Journey to Well-Being, is a powerful memoir that details her personal battle with chronic fatigue and serves as a comprehensive guide to achieving overall well-being. In this episode, we'll explore her journey with chronic fatigue, which is a topic that most of us, if not all of us, can relate to, and discuss strategies for boosting energy levels. Who's not excited? I am. Please join me in welcoming Edie Summers. It's an honor to have you with us, Edie.
Hi, Rasha. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. And I'm really excited to be here as well, talking about these really important issues.
Thank you so much for your time and for being here. And I want to kick off our conversation by talking about your pivotal moments in your life when you realized that you were suffering from chronic fatigue and what led you to come to this journey of holistic health. Tell us more about that.
Mhm. I love that question, Rasha. And this is developing chronic fatigue in my early 20s after a ski accident and surgery. That is what led me to alternative and integrative health. That's literally what got me on the path to it. I had a lot of energy beforehand when I was younger, and then I had a ski accident and I tore my knee. I had to have surgery, arthroscopic surgery, and to this day, I'm not sure if it was the stress of the surgery itself or the prescription painkillers afterwards or all the anti inflammatories that I had to take for about a year. Something changed my body and I developed chronic fatigue. So it was a complete turnaround for me and a completely new ball game. I was sleeping all the time. I did not feel like myself. I could tell that something was very, very different with my body. So I was in physical therapy and that was going pretty well, but then I hit a wall and I couldn't get the scar tissue down to my knee past about 90 degrees. And I was a dancer at the time, and they told me, "You're not going to be able to dance anymore." That was unacceptable to me. And so out of just pure, I would say inspiration and desperation, kind of both, and intuition, I went to seek alternative help. I was looking for anyone who could help me. I went to see a naturopath, and he helped me get the inflammation down in my knee. And that's a long story in itself of what he helped me find in a natural food store. But he sent me to a natural food store. And in the process of going there, I felt like I was entering this whole new, very healing world. And because of what he gave me, my knee started getting better. I was able to get my scar tissue down. And then that changed my life so much because I knew I could dance again eventually, that I tried to get a job at that natural food store. And it took a long time to get a job there, but I finally did. And because I worked in the supplements department, I was helping other people with their health issues, of course, in a very compliant way with the FDA. But I also learned a ton more about alternative health, holistic health, and even down the road as a broker about integrative health. And all of that information helped my energy get better. It was this huge kind of awakening for me about what is possible with health and well-being. And I learned so much more about how to improve energy. And these are very, very deep topics, right? Because, like you and I were kind of talking about a little bit before this, a lot of times people may not even realize that they really have chronic fatigue. I mean, they might know that they're tired, but they may not understand that there are reasons behind it. So it's a huge subject, but that really dropped me deep into that world of healing, energy, chronic fatigue, even CFS, chronic illness. alternative health, all of that, holistic health. And that's where I've been ever since.
Thank you for sharing that. And exactly what you said. So, something resonated with me with what you said, which was because of that accident that you had, you developed chronic fatigue. So, would you say that it started
Yeah.
because of pain? So, was it that you being in constant pain caused your body to be in a constant state of stress and then be tired all the time because of the pain you were feeling?
That's a really great question because for me, I think it was something different, which I'll go into. But for some people, absolutely, chronic pain can be very stressful on the body. And a lot of times, chronic pain and chronic fatigue are deeply tied together, especially if someone has what's called fibromyalgia, which is kind of like a chronic pain condition, but there's a lot of chronic fatigue that goes along with it. I think for me, it was more tied to potentially affecting my nervous system and immune system, which again can also be tied to chronic pain. Sometimes chronic pain can also impact your nervous system, or your nervous system can impact your chronic pain levels. But something fundamentally changed for me. I believe it was most likely a combination of my nervous system and immune system. It shifted. And did you know that when your immune system is activated, that leads to chronic inflammation? And chronic inflammation is deeply tied to chronic fatigue. So, and again, there are so many different topics that we can go into this, but that's a really great question because so many people out there are also dealing with chronic pain. Now, they did give me painkillers. Yes. So, but it's very possible that I had a bad reaction to those painkillers, which potentially kind of threw my immune system, digestive system, nervous system off.
Yes, and it causes this ripple effect and a negative spiral, right? And something that you
Exactly.
said
Yeah.
now, something that you said now really intrigued me, which is one is we want to talk about how chronic fatigue manifests in people, and like you said, and we were talking about it earlier, is some people can be suffering from it and don't even know it. So, what are the different manifestations of
Yeah.
it? How can people recognize that this is happening to them? That's from one side. And then something else that
Mhm.
triggered or this question in my head, which was, how do you understand the root cause of it? So first, let's understand how chronic fatigue can manifest in people, and then let's talk about the root causes.
Absolutely. And I want to say for root causes, some of them we're still trying to figure out, especially if it has to do with chronic fatigue that's tied to CFS. However, in other situations, they're making more progress. And even with CFS, they're making progress. But first, let me answer the question about how do people know if they have chronic fatigue? If they are diagnosed with something like CFS, which I was down the road, which I didn't I heard about CFS, which is chronic fatigue syndrome, which is very, very specific. It's a syndrome where meaning that they don't know what causes it. That's why they use the term syndrome. In those cases, if someone has CFS, they usually know that they have chronic fatigue because they can feel it on a really, really deep level. However, in other situations, let's say someone's feeling burned out, stressed out. Maybe they're working a lot or they have constant stress, let's say from trauma. It could be from chronic illness. It could be from this modern world that we're living in where we're getting constant notifications, right? Like we almost feel like we have to be on all the time in this world. And we may not realize that our body has kind of hit a breaking point because we're trying to push through that and keep going. Whereas in reality, our body really needs that downtime and rest time. In that situation, someone may not realize, they might know that they're not sleeping well, but they're maybe still pushing themselves. In that situation, I would say related to burnout, they may not realize that they might be dealing with chronic fatigue in a way that can be addressed. And in terms of understanding the root causes, burnout is easier to find root causes. And sometimes when chronic fatigue is related, let's say to cancer fatigue, let's say someone's had treatment for cancer, they're going to have a better understanding potentially of where their chronic fatigue is coming from. Or let's say they have chronic fatigue from multiple sclerosis or rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune condition, or fibromyalgia, which is an autoimmune condition. They might be able to more easily trace it back to that chronic condition. When it comes to CFS, even though obviously people know that they are chronically fatigued from CFS because it's one of the major symptoms, they're still trying to figure out exactly what causes CFS. I feel like we're getting closer. I do believe it's most likely tied to the nervous system, but because the nervous system informs so many other systems in your body, like the immune
Mm.
system, even your part of your immune system is in your digestive tract, and they're studying the microbiome more, and they're learning more about the impact of viruses. For instance, people that have long COVID have now developed chronic fatigue as well. And those communities are joining forces. People that have CFS and long COVID are not only joining forces in terms of trying to get more research done because they're being able to show that many more people have it, but they're also having very similar symptoms. So in some instances, I think we have a better understanding of where chronic fatigue comes from, but it's kind of a general term. And in other situations, we're still trying to get to the root cause. CFS is one of the more difficult, I would say, illnesses or conditions to kind of get to the root of. However, I do think that the nervous system is deeply, deeply involved in it, kind of where the nervous system gets altered. And then it's a process of, even if you find a new normal, trying to coax your nervous system and therefore immune system back into a more balanced state. That's what I think is most likely they're going to hopefully come to the conclusion of officially. Anyway,
Which makes sense. Yeah, everything you said makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
And there's something also I've heard so many people say, I can't get a good night's sleep. I always feel like I can
Yeah.
sleep 3 or 4 hours, or I still wake up tired, or it's not enough, or
Mhm.
I can wake up very easily. Is there a correlation between not being like having maybe chronic fatigue or chronic stress? I don't know which of the two could be related to this lack of proper sleep.
Absolutely. It's become a vicious cycle in chronic fatigue syndrome. And also, even people that are experiencing chronic fatigue, let's say from burnout, a lot of times your cortisol patterns can get reversed, meaning that they're lower during the day, which lower cortisol states are tied to chronic fatigue. And normally we want cortisol levels to be higher during the day because that gives us energy. But if we're chronically stressed out, whether from extreme stress, work, or even from a chronic condition, or multiple other factors, our cortisol levels can become reversed, meaning that if they're low during the day, they're going to be higher at night when we're trying to sleep. Ideally, you want cortisol levels lower at night so you can sleep. So if your levels are higher at night, you're not going to sleep as deeply, and deep sleep where you're in an extremely restful state is where your body heals. And that's where your energy is going to come from, in addition to deep, deep nutrition and managing stress. So I would say, based on my own personal experience and research, you want to do everything you can to manage your stress during the day to kind of start to rebalance out your cortisol levels so that you can sleep deeper at night when you really need to. But I would say that yes, people that are burned out, and even people that have chronic fatigue for other reasons like CFS or fibromyalgia, other chronic conditions, are having a harder time sleeping. And it is one of the struggles and symptoms that people are they're presenting with, in addition to chronic fatigue. So I would say they're deeply, deeply tied together.
That makes a lot of sense. And isn't
Yeah.
it sad that it's become so prevalent and it's become so normal now when people say,
Mm,
I don't sleep, I'm always tired, I always go through these burnout phases, and it
mm,
will pass. I
mm.
mean, I think that's one of the first things I would say that needs to be, that people need to be educated on.
Mhm. Absolutely. So I would say a couple things on that. First of all, I think we've been very conditioned in this modern world to feel like we always need to be on, like we always need to be available, that we always need to be striving and doing our best, and being a kind of um, it's even like, let's say, scrolling through your phone and answering every email, responding to every notification. Even on that level, that is not normal. What I have seen both in research and my experience is that we are chronically stressed out, and that's like the new norm, and it's not normal. That's not how our bodies were meant to be. Our bodies need a lot of downtime in addition to stimulation and uptime. If you're dealing with burnout, you really need to find a really great balanced pattern between both states. If someone is dealing with CFS, again, stress can definitely play a role. Sometimes in the CFS communities, people are told by their practitioners, oh, all you need to do is reduce your stress. And it's not that simple for someone with CFS. However, managing stress in general for everyone, especially in this modern world and digital age that we're in, regardless of your circumstances, is extremely, extremely important because it's going to reinform your nervous system. It's going to reinform your immune system. And you want to do everything you can to give your body that upper edge. And the truth is that we need more downtime and off time and rest. Even if we're not sleeping, I mean, we definitely need to sleep, but even just kind of being more in the creative state and in the restful state where your body and your brain and your mind have a chance to renew and reboot. That's super, super important for everybody. So, I would say a big challenge for all of us is to remember that we're human and that our bodies have certain needs, and it's okay that our bodies have those needs, and we're going to do much better with anything that we need to manage or achieve anything if we kind of allow that part of ourselves to be more, I would say.
That's so true. So that comes from self understanding and self compassion. And
Yeah,
yeah, and
absolutely.
yeah, so once we do understand ourselves and where we're operating from during the day, and have a bit of compassion towards ourselves and our bodies, then that will definitely help us say, you know what, I've been in my beta brain wave for 3 hours, constant, nonstop. I've been working, stressed. I deserve a break. I need a break, and my body deserves a break. So I absolutely agree with you. And talking about your
Absolutely.
experience, you had an opportunity to explore naturopathy as one of the ways that you used, or one of the tools that you used to help yourself overcome that condition. What other practices have you come across, or you're familiar with, that you would recommend if somebody suffers from this condition, that they at least read about, explore, get to know, or even ask around about it as a first step?
Absolutely. These are such an important question, and questions. And I would first say there are so many things that have helped me, and I go into great detail in my book. However, I'm going to share some of them here that I can think of off the top of my head. So, definitely, first, yes, it's great to visit with I'll, I'm a big believer in integrative health too, and a lot of doctors are learning about alternative health and holistic health as well. So you could try reaching out to a naturopath, you could try reaching out to an integrative practitioner, functional medicine. There are so many different types of practitioners who may have good advice for you. What I have found is that for people that have um, chronic conditions, often you also have to listen to your body, and you have to find a balance between what people are recommending and then kind of what your body responds to. So there's that tip. And I'm going to share some other practices as well, but I want to say, as far as listening to your body, that was one of the biggest things that helped me. I developed, in the process of developing chronic fatigue, my intuition and what they call interoception, meaning you're kind of hearing your body's signals more, that ramped way up for me. I could literally hear and feel what my body was saying to me and asking of me to do differently in order to improve my energy. And it was, I mean, it was amazing to me that I didn't hear that voice before. I mean, maybe a little, but after I developed chronic fatigue, it was all I could do not to hear it. And so I really started paying attention to my body's voice, and your body's voice is different than, let's say, your kind of ego or your, the kind of the voice that you put out into the world, which is great. But your body's voice, generally speaking, is it goes at a slower pace, for one thing, usually, kind of like your body does. Like, we heal. I always like the metaphor of, you kind of, nature goes at a very slow pace usually, but nature doesn't hurry and yet accomplishes everything. I think that's from, was it Lao Tzu? I don't want to say his name incorrectly, but, and I found that also with my body's voice. Like, my body's voice is kind of subtle, but it's there. And it's literally your organs sending you signals, your nervous system is sending you signals all the time. And it's telling you, it's asking you, slow down, reduce your stress, please. Please feed me well. Please surround me with positive, nourishing people. Please surround me with a positive, nourishing environment, things like that. And your body's voice is going to keep saying that to you because it's is asking, literally asking you for what you need. So one of the principles in naturopathy is kind of balancing out input in, input out, or what comes in and out, right? So in terms of nutrition, what I've learned is that it really does make a difference. Like, deep nutrition can make a big difference. Think of it as energy, literally energy, like vitamins and minerals, fresh food, whole food. This is energy that you're feeding your mitochondria, you're feeding your nervous system, your immune system, which is, all of it's deeply tied together. So you want to think about nourishing yourself as much as you can. That's really helps. Managing stress can really help. I also use very subtle things that improve my energy. And it's the subtle things that can make a difference. And what I've also learned is that by interviewing other people who have had chronic conditions and doing research, and also from my own experience, it's usually a combination of small things that make a difference, that start to kind of retool your nervous system and immune system. So, for instance, I use essential oils. They can kind of they can give you a happier mood, but citrus can also gives me more energy, and it's been shown in research to do that. I really have to watch toxins. And again, this kind of comes more from functional medicine or naturopathy, where again, you want good nutrition coming in, but you also want to make sure that you're avoiding things that you're sensitive to, because that's going to potentially aggravate your immune system. And again, when your immune system is aggravated, that can create inflammation, chronic inflammation, which again is deeply tied to chronic fatigue. So, um, yeah, I would say it's a lot of subtle things. It's nutrition. It's doing everything you can to manage stress, keep sleep as deeply as you can, which I know can be a challenge, um, but it's still possible. It's kind of little energetic things too. It's kind of how what you bring into your environment that can make a difference in terms of improving your own energy. And there's so much more I could say on it, but those are some of the topics and tips that are kind of popping into my head right now. So
Yeah, and that's beautiful because and it looks different for different people. What
it
could be
does.
energizing to you in terms of nutrition, it might not be as energizing to someone else. And this is something that,
Absolutely.
yeah, this is something that Ajit from the coaching course in Mind Valley was saying the other day, that one of the tools that he
Yeah,
recommends is that watch out for the foods that give you energy and watch out for the foods that deplete you of energy. And yes, as much as junk food
exactly.
could be nice and yummy and it gives us that rush or whatever it is, but then you notice that it's depleting you of energy. And like you said, listening to your
Hmm.
body, it's not a special skill that you need to go to a university and get certified on. All you just need to do is
Right.
sit with yourself, acknowledge that your body is there and it's talking to you constantly, constantly
Yeah.
telling you things,
Yeah.
right? It's like a little child that you have. And that's,
Yes.
sometimes it throws tantrums and you just want to dismiss it, but then the tantrums keep getting worse and worse because you're dismissing it. You're not telling it, okay, I acknowledge you, I hear you, I know you're there, tell me what's wrong, explain to me what's wrong. And it's not me trying to say what is wrong, it's not me telling the child, oh, you're being a brat, you're being this, you're being that, you're not listening. So this is me trying to control. But then when I actually sit
Right.
and listen and give this person, or the body in this case, the authority and the power to say
Yeah.
that, yes, you matter. And yes, I acknowledge you're there.
Mhm.
And now I'm listening, and tell me how I can help you. You will start hearing. And then the more you practice this, the voice keeps getting louder and louder. So it's not something that's rocket science. Everybody has access to it. It's just about setting the intention to do it, and you'll get to it.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing all these things, because everything is really valid. Yeah, what you said.
Absolutely, and I also wanna say when you mentioned intention, that was something really important for me in terms of my energy. Now I wanna say I have a new normal, however, I set the intention to find out what would work for me and do everything I could on my end to improve my energy. I set that intention, and I still have that intention today. It was very powerful, because it was so important to me to feel as good as I can. And I'm not saying, I don't want to say that, oh, that you have to set this, to anyone listening, you have to set the same intention that I do, or you have to have the same outcome I do. Um, I have days when I here's the thing is, even with the intention which is very important, I feel, because that works on your subconscious mind, right? And it's like a directive that you are always going to follow. Super, super important. And again, it's very much tied to, again, your body. Someone said this, I think it was Candace Pert. She wrote Molecules of Emotion, which is like a landmark book on kind of like how your body is talking to you. And your body, she said that your body is your subconscious mind. So your body is extremely wise, and so you can talk to it and listen to it on a very, very deep level, and it's going to help you and do everything it can. And you can as well on that subconscious and conscious, on both levels, conscious and subconscious. But again, everyone is going to have a different outcome, and I also have to strive every day to feel as good as I can, and I do have symptoms that pop up, and that's okay. I'm not here to judge myself or anyone else. However, there are things that you can do to make yourself feel better, and even if you're having a harder day, it's okay. You were mentioning earlier, Rasha, that you can also practice kind of that self-compassion, and self-acceptance. And some days it's all about grace, self-compassion, and empathy, compassion for yourself, right? And just, and the more compassion that you can give to yourself, the better it's going to be for your nervous system, I would say. So, and again, I know that there's so much we could go into these, but I really appreciate all of your insights on this too. It's just great to have conversations about these really important topics.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree. So going back to that, to being specific about the practices. So, what would be your top three practices when it comes to chronic fatigue? We mentioned naturopathy, but if you were to give like your top three for people as an advice to explore more, what would they be?
So I would say, and these are not necessarily tied to a practitioner, although it can be really useful to work with practitioners because they can help you think of things and test for things that you hadn't thought of, right? They can
Mhm.
help uncover more of the pieces of the puzzle for you. However, I would say my three top tips are, manage your stress during the day. Super, super important. You want to do everything you can so that you can sleep better. And because managing stress is going to minimize your symptoms. And there's a lot that goes into managing stress. Oh, there's my cat. I just realized my cat is back there. There's some of it is stress can be a very physical thing. So, there, eating well can manage stress. I like to use certain herbs, or, sometimes I use supplements, like something that will kind of like lavender oil, for instance. It's been shown to manage stress and anxiety, even for anyone who struggles with that. So, sometimes we need help along the way. But I would say managing stress is one of my number one tips because it has so many implications for lowering symptoms, improving energy, and also improving sleep. And then I would say gentle stretching. Now, I would say I'm a big fan of yoga and mind body practices like qigong, yoga, tai chi, breathing exercises, pranayama. But I would say, or even mindful walking. I love to get out in nature and walk. For anyone who's not able to do those, I would say you could try breathing exercises where you're trying to help your bring more oxygen into your system, or gentle stretching, or both, because that's going to again help kind of calm your nervous system down. It's good for your lymph system. So there are so many, you want a little bit of gentle movement at the very least. So I would say manage stress, try to do some type of gentle movement or deeper breathing, gentle stretching. And then the third one is, I would say, tied to nutrition. And I'm going to throw kind of energy, what they call energy medicine in. So you want to feed your body and your soul and your spirit and your whole system as much as you can. You want to, so that can be, through food. You like, I had to learn how to cook, and I'm getting better and better about it, like remembering to factor in my own well-being, factor in time to make meals. Now, if you're feeling like you're too tired to do that, I totally understand. You just want to try to just remember to make it a factor. So if you have to make a game plan for someone to help you or something, try to factor in ways that you can nourish yourself, through nutrition. So now that can be food, it could be herbs, supplements, essential oils. You just want to think of and experiment with ways. And again, this might involve working with a practitioner. Find ways to nourish yourself. So I would say my three top tips are: manage your stress, find ways to gently move or breathe deeper, and then do everything you can to nourish yourself on all levels, whether that's nutrition, but it can also be kind of, your spiritual self, your energetic self. There are so many different ways, but you want to think of bringing in like energy, right, from the outside. Now, you can do your own to generate energy too. That's kind of what the gentle stretching is, and deeper breathing. That's going to help you build energy internally. And then from the outside, you want to bring in fortification. So, and then deep sleep, of course, will help you build energy. So,
That's beautiful. And it's so empowering. Like you don't need to go anywhere. This is just going back to your basics, right? You don't need to go anywhere. You have the potential in your hands to take care of your health. And this is what we always, in all most of my talks, if not all of my talks, what it goes back down to is you have the possibility, you have the option, and you have the responsibility, and you owe it to yourself to take care of your health.
absolutely. And I would say one more thing I would add in, like for a fourth tip that's super, super important, is support. So I
Yeah.
would say it's other people, it's positive relationships with other people. Like for instance, Russia, like I feel better, I'm more energized speaking with you. Does that make sense? Like it's the
Yes.
connection that we have with one another. Yeah. It makes a big difference, and it's actually good for your nervous system to engage with positive people. And you want people in real life, like in your immediate surroundings, hopefully, that you can connect with. And you have to sometimes make bids, right? And you have to do what you can to repair relationships. We all have relationships that, no relationship is going to be perfect. But if both parties want to make it work regardless of what's happened, do what you can to repair those relationships, because positive relationships are so supportive and they're so good for you, and that can help improve your overall well-being and your energy. So just wanted to throw that out there. And if you're feeling isolated, let's say you are do have a chronic condition, for whatever reason, try video. And there are a lot of support groups online, but you want to bring in support and communication any way that you can.
I agree with you. That is a beautiful fourth essential element to it. And so many times we sit here and talk about how technology and the phone and this has added to the stress, but you know what, we can also use it and twist it around. And like you said, if you're physically isolated and there isn't any kind of support in your vicinity, there are so many other options online, and people willing, and people who also need you. There are a lot of people who need
Exactly.
you too.
Exactly. Beautifully said, Russia. I totally agree. We all need each other. We are deeply,
Yes.
deeply social beings, and social well-being is a huge part of well-being. It's a huge part of it. And it can help with healing. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Edie. We can go on and on for a long time. I want to honor your time, and I am very grateful for your insights. I'm grateful for your time, and I will also have a link for anyone listening who would like to have a copy of your book. I'll have a link there as well for them. And yeah, thank you so much.
thank you, Rasha. It was just lovely to speak with you, and I just appreciate this chat and getting to know you. And thank you so much for all that you're doing to help improve well-being around the world. And so, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. We hope you found it insightful and you enjoyed it as much as we did creating it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Let's continue creating this amazing community of holistic wellness seekers and practitioners together. See you in the next one.